Hello everybody and welcome to the grand final of the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge. We've had our real world and our sim championships decided. Now we bring the top 10 from each of those competitions together and the venue decided by the fans on social media. And it's Kyalami, the South African circuit, that has played host of late significantly to rounds of the Intercontinental GT Challenge that has been chosen as the venue for this one race, unlike the normal championship rounds where they are two races with, of course, the semi-reverse grid for the second. It's just one race, but it's a longer race. And interestingly, it's going to have a mandatory pit stop as well. 38 minutes will be the race duration. That includes the formation lap. And then between 10 and 25 minutes of the race, there will be the mandatory pit stop. Every entrant that we have will receive a cup for getting this far through to the grand final. And the real fascination is going to be whether it is Norbert Kish, representing, if you like, the real world, although he did come from sim racing many years ago, or Enrique Marcos, who is the sim champion, who is likely to come out on top. That said, a whole host of other drivers that are very competitive indeed, and even if they haven't won a championship, they would dearly love to win this grand final. Super Pole is already underway, trucks out on the circuit, and there's also been quite a lot in the first few minutes of the Super Pole session. Keep the race control team occupied, largely to do with track limit abuse, and already lap times have been lost for the likes of Kreitehoff and also Marcel Matig. They are from the real championship, the sim championship respectively. But significantly, Jonathan Andre has had a lap time taken away. So the champions, Norbert Kish and also Enrique Marcos. So there's been quite a lot going on in terms of track limit abuse. And Norbert Kish is currently the fastest then, with just 5.5 minutes and counting still to go within Super Pole. Now the Kyalami circuit is a fantastic one. It's full of undulation. A great challenge for the drivers, and 38 minutes Okay, that includes the formation lap, a slow lap admittedly, but it really is going to take it out of tyres and brakes, because not only is it a long race, but also they're under a huge amount of load plunging down the hill, for example. Take this section of the circuit, down through Mineshaft now. Looking at Norbert Kish, the pole position driver. Speed builds all the way downhill through turn 12 there, and then head towards the Crocodiles, where it's even heavier braking. Norbert will know exactly what the truck feels like as the session wears on, but you can guarantee that tyres and brakes are going to take a pounding, and it may well be that those that look after the machinery the best are going to come out on top at the end of this race. Sadly, there's no Jose Villa, there's no Pedro Marco from the real championship, but we have, therefore, 8 from the real, 10 from the sim championship, ready to do battle as Norbert Kish now powers his way up towards the timing line, and as he goes through, let's see whether that is going to be an even quicker lap for him. He remains for the moment then at the top of the times, with Enrique Marcos there going for the pit lane. So second he is provisionally on the grid. Another warning is given to Gergo Balai for track limit abuse from the Sim Championship, and Gergo Balai loses a lap time. As you look at Robin Kreitehoff, who is really getting on with the job here to go third. Now, he joined the real championship late, but was an instant gun when we saw him at Le Mans, and Kreitehoff then comes now down through Ingwe at the end of the lap, turn 16, drifts it out wide up onto the curb, heads now towards the timing line, and let's see where that is going to put him. Third it is, as he goes over the line. And with 3.5 minutes on the clock, there's still time for him to improve if the Rainbow Warrior Scania has got it within it. Let's see. Down he drops now then through that little kink at turn 1, then towards Crowthorne, turn 2, this corner, and then you climb up the hill through the Juxki sweep on towards Barbecue Bend, sharp left, and then that short straight down towards Sunset. So this section on the first lap of the race, a real pinch point it will be, I'm sure. The Kreitehoff there accelerates up towards us. Now, what about the Lucas Hahn driven Iveco, possibly as one to watch? Currently, he is 4th in the times, and Lucas Hahn, we know he's quick as their Sasha Lenz runs out wide, gets out of harm's way, but loses track position at least to Lucas Hahn. Lucas went without a win in the Real World Championship. There was Norbert Kish, Jose Villa and Manuel Alvarez who did the winning. Alvarez is taking part in this, but at the moment he's a long way back, in fact, in the Mercedes. Only 8th fastest, which is perhaps a little bit of a surprise given his normal pace. This is Lucas Hahn's view then as he goes up now through the right of Sunset, heading towards Clubhouse. Drops it down a gear through that sharp left, rides the curb, all the new apartment buildings on the right hand side. In a moment there's the S's, 8 and 9, left then right, and then that long climb up towards Loikop at the top of the hill. So Hahn for the moment with the road to himself, having to cope with a circuit that is new to him. It's new to everybody. So if they've been doing their homework, so to speak, they'll have spent a lot of time in the sim this week learning about a virtual Kyalami. Now that plunge down the hill here, head towards that kink that takes you through Mineshaft at turn 12. And then the next section really is all about getting everything back under control, positioning it, getting the balance right. Drop down through the gears from 4th to 3rd, turn into the Crocodiles now. Power on. Head up towards Cheetah, which is coming up now. There's a lift rather than a heavy brake for that section, and just as you get it off the curb, you've just about got time to sort yourself out down towards Ingwe, up towards the completion of the lap. So there is Hahn over the line, 87 just up the road. Ahead is Angel Rapero, who goes through. And Rapero is another of the drivers that's come there. He is from the Sim Championship. In fact, he was 5th in the Sim Championship, the Spanish truck driver by profession, sim racer for the last couple of years, and actually is a Jochen Hahn fan. So we went from Lucas to a fan of his father. There is Angel Rapero then, who is 6th at the moment, looking pretty promising actually, this for him. One or two of the drivers bailing early, going to the pit lane. At the foot of the times, we've got the Tiehouse brothers with Henry ahead of Björn. There is Manuel Alvarez, who is only 8th fastest. As I said, it's a bit of a surprise that he's not doing better than that right now. And he's all sideways and all crossed up, coming down towards the last corner. The flag is out then, so the session comes to an end. And the end of Super Pole is confirmed. Who is it going to be then that comes out on top? Well, it's Norbert Kish, seemingly, who is going to be on pole position with Enrique Marcos alongside him. Could you have arranged it any better than that? The two champions are set to go toe-to-toe on the front row of the grid. Robin Kreitehoff has qualified 3rd, and it is this man, Lucas Hahn, currently set for 4th. Lucas Hahn has not done yet. Others have finished the session. Looking to see whether there might be any shuffling before the very end. Manuel Alvarez has gone through. He didn't improve. Sasha Lentz is a long way back as well. As you can see on the timing tower, he's only 10th from this session. There is Lentz plunging downhill. And has he taken the flag, or has he got another lap in which he can do anything? He's got this lap then. So Lentz not done yet. A long way back, having lost 2 lap times, Jonathan Andre. So he is 16th fastest, Jonathan Andre. Interestingly, the last 3 on the grid are from the Real World Championship. What about Lentz then here? Is he going to be able to improve as he comes now up towards the line? One shuffle there, as you see. Actually, for the moment, that shows Lentz as being 9th. Now, that could be that we've had a driver lose a lap time. So, yes, Alvarez has dropped, has he not, to 16th. Now, let me quickly look at the race control feed. Lentz doesn't go any quicker, and I'm not aware that Alvarez got any penalties there. So, we await news as to whether Alvarez will keep where he should have been, which is 8th on the grid. It might be that he just disconnected, and therefore there was that discrepancy. But you can see the timing tower has a little shuffle. What we do know is that Norbert Kish is the man for pole position. Enrique Marcos alongside him. It's going to be a mega battle between those two. Your real world and sim champions then line up together on the front row of the grid. And this race, 38 minutes long, so it's a really long race, just the one, admittedly. You've got that mandatory pit stop, but it's really going to take it out of tyres and brakes, that's for sure. Plus, arguably, the drivers themselves, as they have to stay at the sim for a much longer period of time than normal. Now, the drivers have a further 8 minutes to file any incident reports if they want race control to have a look at anything. So if you felt like your quick lap, for example, was affected by traffic around you, that can be looked at. Or if somebody had a moment and crashed into you, that too can be looked at by the race officials. And then the drivers will be asked to rejoin the server, getting ready then for this grand final of the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge, all part of #OneTruck We've had some great racing all season. The Sim Championship has been very, very busy indeed, because that has effectively shadowed what we've been doing in the Real World Championship. But with so many drivers, they've had to have 2 races for each of their rounds. So some grids have been a bit bigger than others, but it's been a very competitive series all the way through the year. And we've got the top 10 drivers out of that Sim Championship lined up on this grid, ready to do battle. Enrique Marcos is the driver who took the championship. He has been this year's not dominant driver, but one of the men to beat, admittedly, and very consistent. Put together a really strong championship. He's an industrial, electronic and automated engineer by trade, and a real sim racing fan. His favourite driver in track racing, well, perhaps no surprise that as a Spaniard it is Antonio Albacete, who will be perhaps watching this from home. It didn't qualify for it by not being in that top 10 in the championship. So Antonio Albacete sits it out, and it's one of his fans that lines up on the front row of the grid. 3rd on the grid, Robin Kreitehoff, and then 4th on the grid, Lucas Hahn. So the real world drivers occupying the majority of the places within the top 4, but you've got Enrique Marcos thrown in there for good measure. He is a sim racing expert, sim champion, as we've said, and Norbert Kish started his motorsport career in sim racing before going into the real world in saloon car racing. So you've got 2 drivers on that front row with a really good, really impressive pedigree in sim racing. Going to be fascinating to see how they pan out over the course of this really long race around the Kyalami circuit. So the drivers then will, as I say, rejoin the server very shortly. We'll have a chance to go into our showroom and have a look at exactly who is going to be on track for this grand final, this mix of the real world and the sim championship drivers. And then we'll be good to go with the formation lap counting within the time. And therefore it's 38 minutes, our grand final race. So let's have a quick look at the entry then, and you have to start with the real world champion, Norbert Kish, sim racer turned circuit racer, and of course a track racing champion in 2014, 2015, and last year, as well as being the digital champion last season and this. So Norbert Kish, whether it's in a real truck or a sim truck, he has been the real master and busy setting up his own team as well, the Revesh TRT squad, and the MAN driver is on pole position as we get set to go racing here at Kyalami. In number 7 is Jose Maria Dietermat, who was third in the sim championship, took a race win. The computer engineer has been a sim racer on and off since 2012 and has actually done quite a lot of endurance racing in the sims with Jose Villa, who we've seen winning in the real world championship this year. Sadly, he's missing from this last race. And Jose Maria Dietermat is another fan of Antonio Albacete, and he provisionally is going to line up on the 5th row of the grid going into this grand final. Aboard number 8 is Manuel Alvarez then, and he should start 8th on the grid. That's where his time had put him. Alvarez, one win within the Real World Championship. Only really started racing trucks in 2020. He's done a bit of saloon car racing as well in the Spanish Clio Championship, and is a regular within the Spanish Truck Racing Championship. And Manuel Alvarez, a winner in the Real World Championship, took a victory going back to the Hungaroring. He's certainly going to be a man to watch here. Number 14 is Enrique Marcos. This is a truck you need to keep an eye out for, because the sim champion, 4 wins he took out of the 8 races, and the industrial, electronic and automatic engineer, a truck racing fan from the age of 7, lines up on the front row of the grid with the team Panos Albacete Iveco, the livery a nod to his hero, Antonio Albacete, as indeed is the team name. And there he is on the outside of the front row of the grid. Can he triumph over Norbert Kish? Don't bet against it. This is going to be a really fascinating fight between the two. Aboard number 15 on the back row of the grid is Henry Tyhouse, alongside his brother Bjorn with the Team EK Truck Race Scania. And Henry, that we've seen in the British Championship, in the European Championship, a long, long way back, struggling, I suspect, to adapt to an all-new circuit like Kyalami. But let's see, over the course of the race, it doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish. Keep out of trouble, look after the machinery. He could make progress up the grid. Aboard number 22 is Lucas Hahn, Hahn Racing Iveco, and the 3rd generation racer from the Real World Championship. His grandfather, the late Konrad Hahn, his father Jochen, multiple champions, and he began racing in the real world in 2019 in the ADAC Grand Prix in the Mittelrhein Cup at the Nürburgring. He's been an occasional digital racer, limited real world on-track racing thus far because of joining in halfway through 2019 and then COVID affecting last year. But certainly a driver who gets better all the time is Lucas Hahn. No reason to think that he won't be a race winner in the Real World Championship this season. Number 29 is Yuri Stark, a CEO of an IT company, and he was 8th in the Sim Championship with the Freightliner. Now, without Bagheera Racing in the championship this year, Theo Calve having dropped out, this is really the only bonneted truck that we've got. But the 45-year-old German, Yuri Stark, certainly a man to keep an eye to. He's been in the thick of action all season long, and the bonneted Freightliner, welcome variety on the grid against all the cab-over rigs going into this grand final this evening. Sasha Lentz, who, like so many, is from a good truck racing dynasty, 2nd generation racer, and having raced in the British Truck Racing Association Championship events and the Mittel Rhine Cup, stepped up to the ETRC in 2011. In 2018, he took his first outright win. That was at Misano. Strangely, though, even though he had a digital race win last year, he's been winless in this year's Digital Racing Challenge. Can he put that right in this grand final? Well, he starts a long way back on the grid, doesn't he? He starts 10th provisionally. So Sasha Lentz has got work to do if he's going to force a way forward from there. 31 is Christian Artesaros, who is a military man by trade, and when he's not doing his military duties, he's a great sim and track racing fan, as he has been since he was the age of 5. Runner-up in last year's Digital Championship, and looking forward to seeing how he can go in this grand final. 7th in the 2021 Sim Championship, and Artesaros starts on the penultimate row of the grid provisionally, but could be one to watch to see what progress can be made as he works his way forward from there. Number 33 will start a bit further up the grid for German Tobias, the self-employed truck driver. He's been a track racing fan since the mid-1990s. He's 31 years of age, the Spaniard, and took a race win to be 4th within the Sim Championship in the Reinert Adventure rig, the Scania. Be good to see René Reinert back on the real world grid, hopefully this season as well, but his team name lives on through the Scania, rather, of German Tobias, and he too should be a driver to watch. He will start on the 6th row of the grid. Now, what about Robin Kreitehoff? He's been really, really good in Superpole to be 3rd fastest, the 26-year-old Dutch driver. His father raced way back in 2003. He started his truck racing involvement as a mechanic and now as a driver, and it's going to be interesting to see what he can do about the 2 ahead of him, because it's his best qualifying. So what can he do now in race terms to go after Kish and Marcos when we go racing? Well, stand by, because we are just moments away from finding out. 51, Bjorn Tiehaus. He lines up on that back row. He, like his brother, has been a regular in the European and the British series over the years. And so he's got work to do in this, but the truck racing team Kreeft DAF in the hands of Bjorn Tiehaus should be one that makes some progress given his race experience. Completing the showroom, completing the list of drivers that we have with us, is Jonathan Andre, the team manager of the Lion Truck Racing team, who has been, of course, one of the regulars within our Real World Championship. Got a podium in the last race at Harama, but he's a long way back on the grid, having had his best lap time taken away for track limit abuse. 77 is Alejandro Gomez, the 27-year-old Spaniard, the graphic designer. Like so many, he's been a truck racing fan since he was a small boy, since he was 6. He's a Jochen Hahn fan, but actually enters the truck under the Reinert Adventure banner. Runner-up in the Sim Championship without taking any wins. So consistent, if not an outright gun. And he starts quite a long way back on the grid, in fact. Row 7 is where he lines up to be 13th provisionally after Superpole. Aboard number 85 is Marcel Matig, who took a win with his MAN in the Sim Championship, and he was 9th in that. So Marcel Matig, then the logistics company director, the 40-year-old German, will be eager to try to make progress, because he will start alongside Gomez. In other words, quite a fair way back on that grid. So keep an eye to Marcel Matig trying to make some progress forward when we go racing. In 86, there is Gergo Balai, the Budapest student, and the 18-year-old with his MAN was 10th in the Sim Championship. So a driver who, again, has, by good results, by consistency, by scoring well, positioned himself nicely going into this grand final. And he will start mid-grid. There you have 87, which is Angel Ropero, the 39-year-old truck driver, and another Jochen Hahn fan. He's been a sim racer since 2019. And number 91 is Adrian Bueno, who is another driver to start on the 7th row of the grid. In fact, he will be 14th on the grid. It's his birthday today. 30 he is today, so happy birthday. This Spanish driver, who is a programmer by trade, only began sim racing last year. He's an Adam Lachko fan, European track racing champion. And Adrian Bueno then certainly is going to be a driver to watch. So that shows who we've got. And of course, the Ford F-Max is our official truck. We have the Iveco as the pace truck. We'll see those rigs as well, of course, before we get our racing underway. But the drivers now starting to make their way back towards the server, and it won't be long, therefore, before we are ready to go racing for this grand final for the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge. The drivers then have rejoined the server. Quick reminder of how the championships, plural, ended. Norbert Kish winning the Real World Championship, 42 points ahead of Manuel Alvarez in the end, with Lucas Hahn third, Sasha Lentz fourth, Jose Villa fifth. He's missing from the grand final. Jonathan Andre was sixth from Robin Kreitehoff, who joined in late but scored very effectively despite a few dramas. Bjorn Tyhouse was eighth, Pedro Marco, who's also absent tonight, ninth, and Henry Tyhouse 10th. Whereas in the Sim Championship, it was Enrique Marcos with his 4 wins who took the honours from Alejandro Gomez. Jose Maria Diethmer was third with 1 win from then fourth Herman Tobias. He also took a race win. Angel Rapero and Adrian Bueno win less next, ahead of Christian Artesaros. Yuri Stark also didn't score a win. Marcel Matig, who was 9th, did, and Gergo Balai, who rounded out the top 10, another driver that went without a victory. So a real spread of those doing it by wins, those doing it by consistent point scoring to get themselves there to the top 10 in each of the 2 championships. Right, that gives you all the background to our grand final. We've had a look at the drivers involved, a look at how the championships ended. The only thing now we need to do is to get this grand final underway. The drivers are rejoining the server. That means the grid is starting to take shape, and it means that the ETRC Digital Racing Grand Final is only minutes away from starting at a virtual Kyalami then, as we get ready. Before, of course, the race itself begins, there is, as tradition dictates for the European Truck Racing Championship, lap from the Ford F-Max, and the Ford F-Max is ready to go on track for its pre-race lap. So the Ford F-Max lap completed, and the drivers now get ready to go. There is the Iveco pace truck then. So the grid is formed with Norbert Kish lining up on pole position, and it is number 14, Enrique Marcos, who lines up alongside him. The second row of the grid is going to have Jose Maria Diefma, by the look of it. But I suspect, as we go down the grid, there's been one or two changes, because, yes, there you have Lucas Hahn for third on the grid, and then Robin Kreitehoff alongside. Drivers getting themselves all set, ready to go. And there you can see on the rear of the grid is number 51, which is Bjorn Tiehaus. He will line up alongside Henry Tiehaus. But as I say, it looks as though there has been a little bit of a shuffle around from what we had at the end of the qualifying session. But they'll have their pace lap in a moment or two. The front row, we do know, is Norbert Kish then on the inside line. And there, Enrique Marcos to line up alongside. Robin Kreitehoff is on the second row alongside Lucas Hahn. So you've got Lucas Hahn behind Norbert Kish, Robin Kreitehoff behind Enrique Marcos. And we'll have another look, hopefully, at the grid in a moment, just to confirm who is where as we get set to go. Lucas Hahn starting third. Kreitehoff should be fourth on that grid. Marcel Matig is going to be fifth, and then Angel Ropero is going to be sixth, seventh in the end. Manuel Alvarez, and eighth, by the look of that, is going to be Gergo Balai. Then you've got Jose Maria Diefma, and Sasha Lentz lines up alongside him. Then it is German Tobias and Yuri Stark with the bonneted Freightliner for company. Next up will be Alejandro Gomez, and aboard number 91, Adrian Bueno's Renault, as the pace truck sets off now. Then Christian Arteceros and Jonathan Andre just ahead of the two Tiehouses. That should be how we go racing then, as the drivers then set off now. This lap counts within the 38 minutes. It's not a proper racing lap, but it is then the first lap within the timed element to this race, and there's no regulation lap on the end this time. So in the past, you lose a lap because of the pace lap, you make it up with the regulation lap. This time it's just 38 minutes. So the race distance is a long one to allow for this pace lap. So there you've got Norbert Kish on pole position. Does he start as the favourite? Yes. Can he translate this into a race win? Very possibly, but Enrique Marcos, that is for sure, is going to be a real thorn in his side over the course of this race. And a lot of it could be decided by who wins the race down towards the first corner at Crowthorne. That first sharp left, Norbert Kish will be on the outside for the kink, but the inside for that corner. And if he can get the race lead away from Marcos, that could be absolutely crucial. He knows exactly what he's doing, both in the sim and in a real world truck, does Norbert Kish. He's spoken to us over the course of the season about the need to look after the machinery, and that's going to be crucial, I think, to what pans out over the course of the next, what are we going to end up with, 35 minutes, I suspect, in terms of the race duration. So with a few clouds but a dry road, the sun shining, the trucks head uphill then now towards Luikop. And the highest point of the circuit, you go through this long left-hand hairpin and then plunge downhill. And it's part of the circuit where it's certainly easy to make a mistake and run out wide. And if you do so, you compromise that run all the way downhill. Now, go too quickly down through the mine shaft here, and you're going to be compromised at the bottom of the hill, and you get it wrong into the slow corners of the Crocodile, the Kink of Cheetah, and Ingwe, which is the last corner on the lap. And if you run too wide out of the last corner, then you get into the realms of track limit problems. So the drivers for that section of the circuit are going to be very keen indeed not to transgress whatsoever. So the drivers now making their way down through the first part of the Crocodiles. That's the sharp turn 13. There's a little bit of a wriggle at 14, and then you've got that fast kink, turn 15 of Cheetah. Got some great names, the new iteration of the Kyalami circuit. Some, of course, take you back to the original Grand Prix circuit, but Kyalami then starting to rebuild its reputation and rebuild motorsport in South Africa with the Intercontinental GT Challenge having been here already twice. But our grand final for the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge is about to get underway. It is Norbert Kish then who is on pole position. It's Enrique Marcos who lines up alongside. There's the run towards the timing line. This is going to get our grand final underway. Now we go racing, and a good getaway by Norbert Kish then as the trucks accelerate down the run towards turn 1. And it's Kish just ahead of Hahn. Was there a bit of contact between the two? Norbert Kish runs out wide, and as they head now down towards the first proper corner, if you like, at Crowthorne, there is contact between Kish, Hahn and Marcos. Hahn tries to split the two front row drivers, and he has done so, but Norbert Kish it is that wins that battle to lead at turn 2. Out wide goes Alvarez, bouncing over the curb. Hahn goes second then. Enrique Marcos is third. It's Robin Kreitehoff in fourth. And they power their way then now up towards the fast straight that loops you on to Sunset. So Kish leads the way. Clock ticks on down. 34 minutes we have. And there you've got Alvarez under attack, or attacking, in fact, Kreitehoff, because they're absolutely side by side as they go there through Sunset, and Kreitehoff hangs onto the place. Right now, Marcos is doing a grand job for the Sim World drivers, because he's up there with the regulars from the real world. As you look at number 07 go through, Jose Maria Diethma, the Spanish driver in the MAN. He's ahead of Sasha Lentz and others for the moment in mid-pack as they come now through the S's for the first time. Whoops, there's contact there. Diethma off the road, and a big drama involving Sasha Lentz and others. That was one of the Rhinus Adventure trucks by the look of it. And I fear that that is going to be a possible retirement. Was that Artesaros? We'll check in a moment. As you see there, Lentz go through. There is Yuri Stark then, who goes by on the outside. So the Freightliner driver, who I thought at one stage, looking at the timing tower, might have had a connection problem. He is there, he is in the race, and the race control team say that the start is under investigation to make sure that all was done as it should have been. But Hahn up from the second row of the grid then, going after Norbert Kish. He came oh so close to a win, if you remember, in the Real World Championship at Le Mans, but just got mugged on the last corner. There is Enrique Marcos dancing over the curb, keeping Kreitehoff at bay. Alvarez runs fifth as they head up towards the end of the opening lap here. The one that we saw spin, incidentally, was Gergo Tobias. It was his truck that got all crossed up and collected lengths. So Gergo Tobias dropped way back as the leaders come through at the end of the first lap of the race then. Kish leads the way. Second is Lucas Hahn. 2 laps in the book. One of them, of course, only one. Is a real proper racing lap. But as the rigs now dive down towards Crowthorne for the second time of asking, number 33, Gergo Tobias, is being investigated by the race control team. And lower down there, look, Jonathan Andre tries to get up on the inside of Gergo Balai. The Hungarian driver fends him off just about. So Balai in the MAN hangs on to position, gets all sideways with a bit of help. Andre's up the curb. And there, 91 round the outside, Adrian Bueno tries to make his attack as well. 77 is under investigation. Alejandro Gomez. There is Gomez, look, on the back of Stark, just ahead for the moment of, in 86, Gergo Balai. Jonathan Andre has fallen back in this little queue, and he's got Christian Artesaros up behind him. Artesaros tries to mount an attack if he can, and he does close a little bit on Andre as they go now through Clubhouse. Stark up the curb there as he fends off the challenge of Alejandro Gomez, the Spaniard with the Iveco, on the back of the Freightliner then as they make the climb uphill. Enrique Marcos then third at the end of that first proper racing lap. And there the trucks make their way into the Leukop hairpin at the top of the hill, and now the leaders plunge down through the mine shaft. Now look at Hahn. He's under attack from Marcos then. These two running second and third. Robin Kreitehoff is in fourth place in the Rainbow Warrior Iveco there, but Marcos, even though he lost out on the start to Lucas Hahn, has fought back very impressively here. He's not losing touch, and he's not giving up without a fight either, that's for sure. So Marcos then on the tail. And in fact, also you'll see under braking, Robin Kreitehoff closes right up as well. So second, third and fourth, as one. They concertina as they come up towards turn 16 of Ingwe over the line. Norbert Kish leads and he's getting away, and he's being helped now by this three-way battle for second place. Look back to fifth. Manuel Alvarez keeping at bay for the moment. Marcel Matig with the MAN, the Falcon Trans Digital Motorsport driver, down through Crowthorne. They will turn now through that sharp left, get back on the power here, climb uphill again. Hahn going defensive to try to fend off the challenge. You can see it coming from Enrique Marcos. And so Marcos, 4 race wins to his name in the Sim Championship. The Spaniard, the champion, right there on the back of Hahn. Kreitehoff is behind him. And Norbert Kish is escaping up the road. This is bad news, really, as far as Lucas Hahn is concerned. Look back from Lucas Hahn's Iveco. You can see riding the curb there in the background, Enrique Marcos as they come up towards Clubhouse now. Closes up a little bit under braking, but the danger is that he then washes out. So that gap might just widen once more as the team Banos Albafetti. Iveco comes through. There you've got riding the curb. Marcos flicks it through the S's. Robin Kreitehoff right there behind him in fourth place, but Marcos then, the Spaniard, closing on the German driver Lucas Hahn as they head up the hill. He looks to the inside line. Tries to force a mistake at Loikop, gets way up the curb on the inside, and he has forced a mistake. Door is open, couldn't quite level as they come through the hairpin. So Hahn stays ahead of him for the moment, but that was a serious bid mounted there by Enrique Marcos. Didn't come to anything, but he certainly served intent, that is for sure. All of this playing into the hands of Norbert, getting away up front, second, third and fourth together. Now, is Marcos asking a little bit too much out of tyres and brakes early on in this race? The way that he's going, it's certainly aggressive. Is he just asking a bit too much of the equipment? Let's see. We won't know for another 28 minutes or so as we get towards the business end of this race. Timing is broken once more by Hahn, by Marcos, by Kreitehoff. That's the top 4. Alvarez runs in 5th place. And then 6th is Marcel Matig. 7th across the line is Angel Rapero. 8th is Jose Maria Diethma. In 9th place it is Sasha Lentz. And 10th is Yuri Stark right now. There, number 7, you see, is the Jose Maria Diethma MTRC entered MAN. And he turns his way now up through turn 2 of Crowthorne. We're getting track limit warnings. 1 to Yuri Stark, 1 to Cristian Artesteros, the Spanish driver. So race control reminding people they need to stay within the confines of the track. And Jonathan Andre is under real attack from Artesteros, who looks to the inside line. This is real versus sim. And Andre's going to get forced out wide. Is he not over the curb? Yes, but Cristian Artesteros not quite able to level with him, not quite able to get the run up alongside him there. They're squabbling for 14th and 15th places, but Cristian Artesteros not yet able to make that move against Jonathan Andre. But what he's trying to do, of course, is apply that pressure and force a mistake out of him. They turn their way almost nose to tail there out of Clubhouse. And on that section of circuit, dare one suggest that Andre looks like he's just getting away a little further. The incident on the first lap involving Alejandro Gomez and Yuri Stark, no further action to be taken. Race control confirms, as now we go back on board with Robin Kreitehoff. He is on the tail of Enrique Marcos, and he's having a look to get past him as well as they come down towards turn 13. But Marcos is able there to defend and also close on Hahn. But by being defensive, does that compromise the line and the end of the corner? Does a little bit. Kreitehoff could barely be any closer. Another big bite of curb taken there as they come down now towards turn 16 of Ingwe. Brake hard, and Kreitehoff almost into the back there. Enrique Marcos under huge pressure in the Iveco. Kreitehoff's mirror, or what you might call the mirror, the rear screen, the little television camera, you can see Alvarez in 5th place, but with the rear of the trucks now all coloured out. So all the drivers in truck racing these days have that rear camera screen that they can have a look on their display and see what's going on behind them. And is Alvarez getting any closer? Well, his Last lap suggests not, but we'll keep an eye to this because as the race wears on, Alvarez might just be able to benefit from this battle pack holding each other up further up the road. As you see there going through in third place, Enrique Marcos. Big frustration for him though. Mugged at the start and hasn't been able to find a way back ahead of Hahn. Here they come. Working lap 6 right now as they're going through Sasha Lentz. Big gap between Lentz and Yuri Stark, who rounds out the top 10, and he might not be 10th for much longer because he's got Alejandro Gomez and also Gergo Balai right there behind him. So Gergo Balai, the Hungarian, taking with him in turn, look, 91 of 91 of Adrian Bueno. Through they are together. Sasha Lentz looking a bit lonely at the moment, helped possibly by Stark dropping back. So Yuri Stark under attack from the Alejandro Gomez rig, and now the pit window is open. There's confirmation. So do you take your pit stop early, get out of traffic, risk rejoining in traffic, or do you do it later in the race when maybe you've been able to string together some good laps and built a gap over the opposition? It'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Is anybody yet making that move down Gasoline Alley? The answer is no. Not at the end of, or not yet, but we'll see out of that leading group. I'll take Gomez, for example. Is he going to bail early? You can use these pit stops to your advantage, but of course it's something very new, another of the great levelers in this final race of the season. Up through the crocodiles then goes Yuri Stark, and waiting to see if anybody on that graphic is heading into the pit lane. Not yet, but Stark does. So Yuri Stark goes for the pit lane. That could be a very shrewd move. So Stark pits early, and there's almost contact there as Balai gets up the inside of Gomez coming out of Ingwe. I think Gergo Balai was delayed, and there, look, Kreitehoff gets up past Marcos, or does he? Gets his nose in front on the outside. But that's not going to be the line for the corner, is it? So, there, Marcos back into third place, but he still not only can't find a way past Hahn, but he can't relax either because, of course, he's still under huge pressure from Kreitehoff. So we've had pit stops then from Stark, from Articeros, and also from Henry Tiehouse. So 3 have served them. Plenty more to come, of course, as you go on board now with Robin Kreitehoff here. Giving a really tough time to Enrique Marcos. In a sense, this ought to help Hahn get away, shouldn't it? Because they'll be busy squabbling amongst themselves now. Alvarez in the background does look a little bit closer now to Kreitehoff, who's got a bit stuck behind Marcos. The Hahn trying to get away up front, and you're looking at the fight for third and fourth. And in the mirror, you can see the 5th place yellow Mercedes and Manuel Alvarez. Up through the S's, then they go. That clock ticks on down, 22 minutes still to go. Norbert Kish building the lead all the time. Last lap through, it was over 5 seconds to Lucas Hahn. And remember, everybody has to serve these mandatory pit stops between the allotted window of 10 to 25 minutes. Kreitehoff then on board in the Scania, drops downhill, but Alvarez is becoming a little bit more of a threat now. Now, we've got penalties coming. One of them is for Enrique Marcos, and another is for 87. That's Angel Rapero, but it's a 10-second penalty for inaccurate grid position. So, for not being where they should have been within that rolling start, I did think Marcos looked like he dropped back a little bit. They're being given a 10-second penalty as Robin Kreitehoff now goes for the pit lane. So that is the leading driver from the gaggle up front to go for the pits. Also now serving a stop is Angel Rapero. And Adrian Bueno in as well. So there is confirmation, that 10-second time penalty given to Marcos and also now to Angel Rapero. Jonathan Andre goes through as you look there at Alvarez, who in turn is taking with him Marcel Matig now, number 85, Marcel Matig with the MAN. So that 10 seconds for Marcos is really bad news indeed, and it's going to drop him down the order at the end of the race. Now, it's a long race, so gaps could open up again by the very end, but the biggest problem he's got is taking now any realistic fight to Norbert Kish, because he was falling away anyway, because he was stuck behind Lucas Hahn, And wherever he ends up, you add 10 seconds to the time and it could have quite an effect. 85, Marcel Matig there, still glued to the back of Manuel Alvarez. So now these two, 4th and 5th. Kreitehoff is in 8th place after his pit stop. That gives an indication of what it loses to serve the regulation pit stop at the moment. A drive-through penalty now for Jose Maria Diethmer. That was for pushing on the opening lap, so the race control team still busy. Marcel Matig becoming ever more of a factor now as far as Alvarez is concerned, because these two are getting closer and closer as they plunge down through the mine shaft once again. Race trucks, of course, governed to a maximum of 100 miles an hour, and very heavy braking indeed there. Matig trying to close onto the tail of Alvarez, and the danger is you brake so late you can't balance the truck and it gets away from you. Now up through Cheetah they turn. Diethmer will be given his drive-through penalty. He was running in 6th place, in fact behind this man, Marcel Matig, and there's another one going for the pit lane, and it's Alvarez. So Manuel Alvarez rather now goes for the pit lane. So still the top 3 stay out, and Norbert Kish continues to try to build that advantage, and little by little he is so doing. But I just wonder now whether Lucas Hahn might be able to go after him. He's not got quite so much pressure, partly because he's been able to pull away, partly because they've held each other up, and partly because of pit stops. So can Hahn now concentrate his efforts on closing on this man, the race leader, Norbert Kish? It's a very tough call, that's for sure, from Lucas Hahn's point of view, because we know how good Norbert Kish is. But Hahn would absolutely love to put one over on him in this grand final. And right now, the real world drivers are showing the sim drivers how to do it. Number 1, Norbert Kish goes through. There you see Gergo Balai, the Hungarian driver. '77 is Alejandro Gomez in the René Reinert colours, and he is on the back of Diethmer, who, remember, 3rd in the Sim Championship, has got this drive-through penalty to serve. So Diethmer is in, if you like, a phony 9th place for the moment. This is a real battle of the Sim stars. This, you've got 4 of them here that qualified for this grand final out of the Sim Championship. They're all running together. So Diethmer runs out wide, coming through the S's, and that is going to give Alejandro Gomez the chance. He's up the curb. He's going to be on the outside line as well for Loikop, and I don't think he's going to be able to dart across the road in time there. Tightens the line through the corner, but he can't really get up the inside at the second apex, and so he's got to tuck back in as they drop down the hill once more. Head towards the mine shaft now. Again, Gomez looks to the inside, and he's going to go through, is he? Yes, he is. Job done there, going into turn 13, into the Crocodiles. Diethmer tries to brave it out with him on the outside line, but he's got a pit stop to make. They all have, but he's got his drive-through to serve, and he needs to get that out of the way. Now, we've got Sasha Lentz into the pit lane, and now Diethmer goes for the drive-through penalty, but he's still got to make that regulation stop, don't forget. That's Lentz rejoining, and he will do so behind that sim battle, really, as Diethmer accelerates out of the pit lane as well now. You can't cut that white line, so they've got to be mindful of where they can blend back in, and Lentz accelerates now and just cuts across the front of Gergo Balai as they drop down into turn 2 there, into Crowthorne. So Lentz now is slightly compromised because he's in a battle, and these are drivers that have yet to serve their mandatory pit stop. Onto the gas. They come now up out of Barbecue, that short straight along the top of the circuit, round the back of the paddock, and this takes them up now through Sunset. Norbert Kish continues to dominate up front, the margin now over 6 seconds, as Lentz here is still on the back of Gomez, as the two of them run now up towards the S's and then up towards Loikop. Through the left, through the right, now the climb. Lentz gets good acceleration out of the S's. Is he going to be able to close enough to make a move going in towards that right-hander at the top of the hill? Let's see. Can't really have a go there. Again, if you tighten the line, you might be able to squirt up the inside into the second element, but of course, it's almost like doing it in slow motion in a racing truck, so it's not quite the same as being able to dart one side and the other as you could in the car, for example. And plus, with a governance to that maximum speed, so much of this is about maintaining momentum, building up to a move. So downhill they come once again. Great battle going on, but Sasha Lentz frustrated. Into the pits has come Lucas Hahn. Now that could be a good move then. At the end of 10 laps, Hahn, there he is, serves the regulation pit stop. He rejoins. Now where does that put him relative to Marcos? It's going to put him behind, but Marcos, remember, gets that 10-second penalty. It keeps Hahn ahead of Kreitehoff. That's important. So there is Marcos. Plus 10 seconds, he drops down the pack. Marcel Matig has got ahead as well, in fact. So it is Kiss ahead of Marcos, ahead of Matig. Then Hahn and Kreitehoff as the top two that have made their regulation pit stops. Pit window closes in 5 minutes. The team's being reminded by race control that they need to get these pit stops served because a penalty comes if you don't make it. Enrique Marcos then goes through, and Marcel Matig being caught by Lucas Hahn, who's all fired up, back on track here. So Hahn the third accelerates through, and Robbie Kreitehoff is behind him as Jonathan Andre there gets roughed up a little bit by number 91, that being Adrian Bueno, one of the two Ramon Ruiz Diaz track racing entries, and Andre for the Lan track racing team just about fends him off on the inside line there. Who they turn together. Andre just hangs on to the position, and that's only 13th. A long way back is Jonathan Andre after that poor qualifying. Runs out wide up the curb. Through he goes. And while they're squabbling like this, so Gergo Balai is getting away up the road. Yuri Stark, you just saw go through with Jose Maria Diethmer behind him. Diethmer yet to serve his regulation pit stop. On board here with Adrian Bueno. That's Jonathan Andre ahead of him. Gergo Balai up the road ahead of him. Are we going to have, at the end of this next lap, the race leaders dive for the pit lane? Norbert Kish leaving it late, that's for sure. Possibly hoping that as everybody else will have taken their stops, he won't have to rejoin in anybody else's traffic. In has come Marcel Matig now. So 85, Marcel Matig comes in. And he could be, at this rate, the winner of the sim element of this grand final, depending on where that penalty drops Marcos to. Now in also comes Jonathan Andre, so he serves his regulation pit stop, and that's Marcel Matig rejoining. Be careful not to cut the white line, Marcel, and he accelerates away now, blasts behind Manuel Alvarez, so he maintains track position, if you like, behind the Spanish driver. There is Jose Maria Diethmer, and he in turn is on the back there, as you can see, of Yuri Stark. So this is for 9th and 10th on the road, but Diethmer looking as though he is going to fall further away, given that he's got to serve that drive-through. Hope that he's not thinking he can combine the two, because that might get him into hot water with the officials if he does. Number 7, Jose Maria Diethmer in the MAN, then all over the back of Yuri Stark in that sole bonneted rig in the race. The Freightliner turns through there. Look back from Yuri Stark's truck now. The IT company boss is about to lose out. Diethmer clatters up the inside of him, and that forces Stark off the road. Diethmer is off the road as well, and Alejandro Gomez gains 2 places. He says, thanks very much indeed. That was perfect for me. So Gomez goes through, and not only does he gain ground, he pulls away. Stark is alongside Diethmer, and he's just going to get his nose in front as they come out of the S's. So the Freightliner goes back ahead there of the MAN. So their order is the same. Trouble is that Gomez has got up and past the pair of them here. That's the race leader. That's Norbert Kish absolutely flying now, charging over the curb. And this time around, he goes for the pit lane. So Norbert Kish comes in, gets that regulation stop out of the way with 10.5 minutes on the clock now. Marcos comes in. Remember, he's got a 10-second penalty. The other one with 10 seconds is Angel Rapero. Now that's Hahn. Is he going to benefit on these pit stops? Let's see. In theory, he should get back ahead of Marcos. He won't get ahead, of course, of Norbert Kish. So let's see who's going to be second. It should be Hahn. Side by side, one on the track, one in the pits, and Lucas Hahn is just going to be in front. But Marcos fends on the inside line, brakes late, tries to get back ahead. This is for position. Up the curb goes Marcos. He goes through, but he gets all sideways, and Kreitehoff mugs the pair of them. As Marcos got into the side of Hahn, Robin Kreitehoff dives through, takes 2 places away. Marcos is badly delayed in all of that, and Hahn loses out. He drops to third. This now brings Alvarez into the mix as well, and Marcos has got some damage because he's struggling for pace. He's losing place after place there. Through they turn, but that, I just wonder whether it might get looked at or not, because it was aggressive stuff, and yes, race control saying it's under investigation. So Marcos out of the pit lane, hung onto that inside line, but in the end it was his undoing because there was contact between him and Hahn, as you saw. It has badly delayed him, and so the net result of that was that Robin Kreitehoff was able to dive past the pair. So you've got Kish leading now by over 10 seconds, I would suggest, from Robin Kreitehoff having a second place. And is Kreitehoff going to be able to squeeze enough pace out of his truck to bring down the gap before the end? Pit window is closed, as you see. And there is Marcos then, who falls to 6th on the road, gives away the lead of the sim class. Now, Marcel Matig goes ahead of him on the road, never mind with that penalty. Now there is Hahn coming back at Kreitehoff. He wants that place, as you can see. You'd expect him to be on his toes, and Robin Kreitehoff then maintaining at the moment 2nd place. And of course, the more these two squabble, good for us, good for Norbert Kish, because he can get away. Kreitehoff then comes through up towards the completion of the lap now, gets the power down, drags the Rainbow Warrior Scania out of the last corner of Ingwe, out of turn 16, over the line now. The road drops downhill at this point. Another incident under investigation. Alvarez now with number 14, Enrique Marcos. There's Diefma being run out wide in the yellow MAN coming off the last corner, and so Gergo Balai gets up and past him. So Balai goes through. That puts him 12th now as they rumble over the line. Still not aware that Diefma has done his second stop. He's under investigation anyway for an incident with Balai, and there he is, losing out as Gergo dives up the inside of Jose Maria Diefma down towards turn 1. So while those two squabble, so 91 gets away, that being Adrian Bueno. And Balai to the inside line there as they're heading to Sunset. Diefma braves it out on the outside. This is really brave stuff, I tell you. And right round on the outside line goes Gergo Balai. Sorry, goes Jose Maria Diefma. Balai runs him out wide, but Diefma with the inside for this corner should go through. He does indeed. So Jose Maria Diefma goes through, but he gets all sideways off the road. Just avoids the barrier, but that is going to allow Gergo Balai to go back ahead of him. Now, was there contact that caused the slide in the first place, or was that an error from Diefma? Either way, Christian Arteseros has now caught up with him. Behind is the recovery German Tobias, leaping over the curb as well after his dramas on the first lap of the race. Now this is the battle for the lead of the sim class on the track, at least. Marcel Matig coming under attack from Enrique Marcos, but remember, he's got that 10-second penalty. Into Ingwe they come then, turn 16. And they're being caught by the increasingly competitive Angel Rapero here. So Rapero in 7th place. I think he's going to benefit, of course, from that time penalty that will be applied post-race to Enrique Marcos. on board with Marcos then. Down now towards Crowthorne. He's on the outside line trying to get past Marcel Matig, but he's not going to be able to get through there, I don't think. Ropero next in the queue, as there Marcos does get to the inside of Marcel Matig. Is he going to be able to go by? Let's see. Yes, he's done it. Goes through on the inside, heading into Barbecue. Gets the job done. Trouble is, it's not going to last, is it? Because he's got this Damocletian penalty to be added to his time at the end of the race. So what he now tries to do is pull away to the tune of 10 seconds, which is not going to be easy at all. Up the road ahead is Manuel Alvarez. So that's the next focus for Enrique Marcos. He's not going to win the race, but he wants to win his class. And to do that, he's got to be 10 seconds clear. And he's only got 4 minutes and change in which to do that. So Alvarez here hustles on. The drive-through penalty for Lucas Hahn is being given. So Lucas Hahn, drive-through penalty for the man that's currently in 3rd place. So for the incident with Marcos, possibly it's felt he didn't give him enough room. He gets a drive-through penalty, and so Lucas Hahn then now is going to fall down the order. The actual reason for the drive-through not given on the race control channel to us, but it can only be for that incident. And Hahn now accelerates his way up towards turn 16. Does he serve it this time? He does the right thing, bails straight away, gets that penalty taken. So Hahn comes in, and that's going to allow Kreitehoff an easy run. It's going to allow Alvarez to go through, but have a look in the sim battle, because Marcos, then Matig, and then Ropero are virtually as one, and Ropero now is really on his toes as he comes up to have a go at Marcel Matig down towards turn 1, the kink. And there, look, is Hahn rejoining, and that's going to drop him a long, long way down the order. It's going to put him 7th, isn't it? Just ahead of Sasha Lenz. So there is Lucas Hahn. He's back on track. And as he rejoins, confirmation comes that it was for the clash with Enrique Marcos that earned him that drive-through penalty. So it drops him a long way back, of course, and it also gives Norbert Kish an even bigger advantage up front. They're going through Sasha Lenz, inching up onto the back of Lucas Hahn. 3 minutes to go. And now, look, you can see the way that Marcos is getting away from Marcel Matig, but he's not being able to pull away by 10 seconds, is he? And so he's going to be frustrated here because he's going to get stuck behind Alvarez. Lucas Hahn goes through. Sasha Lenz creeping up onto the back of him. 7th and 8th, they run. So Norbert Kish leads the way. Robin Kreitehoff is in 2nd spot. He's been one of the stars of this race. You've got to say, Robin Kreitehoff, he qualified well, he's raced well. And there he is going after Norbert Kish. It's a big, big gap that Norbert has built up in this grand final. But Robin Kreitehoff, who's had his battles, has done a really good job of keeping out of trouble and hanging on to that 2nd place. Look at this huge queue. Alvarez then, who is currently 3rd on the road, ahead of Enrique Marcos, then Marcel Matig, and now a time penalty for Manuel Alvarez. So he gets a 5-second time penalty, and that was for pushing against Enrique Marcos. And now Hahn under investigation, crossing the white line after the pit exit. It is all happening here. So Alvarez gets a 5-second penalty. So the real beneficiary out of all of this, look, is going to be aboard 87, Angel Ropero, because the 2 ahead of him, oh, sorry, certainly 1 ahead of him is penalised. Marcel Matig is going to be a beneficiary as well. So how they cross the line and then the penalties, it's going to be a very, very different order for the final result. As there, over the line comes Hahn. He is still under investigation. There's confirmation on the screen. There's only a minute of the race to go, so any more penalties are going to have to come post-race. As there, look, you've got Marcos under attack from Ropero. Hahn dives to the outside, goes ahead of Angel Ropero, so that's 1 place gain back at least. And Hahn now tries to have a go at Enrique Marcos as they make that run up towards the sharp left of Barbecue, turn 5. There is Marcos, there is Hahn. So Hahn goes back ahead of Ropero. That gives him at least 1 more place on the road. So the top two are okay. Third is Alvarez, and he, remember, is the first of the drivers with a post-race penalty. In the body of the field there, 7th. And in the back of Hahn, whoops, big old whack that from Angel Ropero. So the drivers currently, I will offer you, are going to be on their last lap. Yep, confirmation comes. The clock's going to hit 0 on this lap. So all these squabbles now take on even more importance. Hahn versus Lentz versus Ropero. So Lentz gets ahead of Ropero as well, courtesy of that contact and the delay to the Spanish driver. But up front, Norbert Kish is heading for the race win. He is no stranger to victories in digital truck racing. And Norbert Kish then now comes down through Ingwe, makes the run up towards the checkered flag. And Norbert Kish is going to win in the ETRC Grand Final for the Digital Challenge for 2021. He's sideways up towards the line, playing to the gallery as the back of the truck wags one way and then the other. Norbert Kish wins the Grand Final then here at Kyalami, and he wins it in style. For second place across the line is Robin Kreitehoff, and then we need to have a look at not only who comes next, but what the times are going to be. Alvarez is going to be third across the line, but he has got a penalty. Those behind can't afford to showboat. Fourth over the line is Marcel Matig. Fifth is Enrique Marcos, was it? No, yes, it was. And then you've got Lucas Hahn behind him. Next up, Sasha Lentz. But you start to add these penalties on. So there's 5 seconds to Alvarez. There's 10 seconds to number 14, Enrique Marcos. So as they come pouring over the line, behind Lentz was Angel Ropero. Then it was Alejandro Gomez. And 10th over the line, there he is, number 29, Yuri Stark, but he may well benefit. After that, 11th over the line was 91, Adrian Bueno. And then we had Gergo Balai, number 86. He was the next driver through. Then Jose Maria Diethmer, but I'll still get a question mark over him for his penalties. Then we had Christian Articeros. Behind Articeros was Tobias. Jonathan Andre was next, and then of the tie houses it was Bjorn ahead of Henry. But then, as I say, we need to start looking at the gaps between them. So if you add 5 seconds on to Alvarez, it would certainly drop him behind Matig, and it may well be that Lucas Hahn benefits out of all of that as well. Right. We'll confirm the results as soon as we can. Let's have a word with our top 2 drivers, because Norbert Kish is the winner of the ETRC Digital Grand Final to add to his race wins in the Real World Championship, and of course to add to his titles as well. We'll drag him into the interview area in a moment to confirm the top 3. Third over the line, Manuel Alvarez, but with his 5-second time penalty that will drop him. Robin Kreitehoff second, and Norbert Kish wins the Grand Final. Norbert, you've done it again, and with all the battles behind you, you made it look quite easy. But I guess you'll tell me, with a long race this time, it was not easy.
Yeah, actually, it turned out to be a little bit lucky for me as well. The first point was the qualifying. I knew that the qualifying is going to be very, very important, because Enrique is really fast always. I've been watching him in the simulator championship, and I saw his lap times all the time in the qualifying were quite even with mine that I did in the real drivers championship. Mm-hmm. So I knew that the first step is to beat him in qualifying, and that's what I practiced for, so that I can have a good one lap pace for the qualifying. And I was really happy it worked out, because I could win the qualifying. And then the start was okay, but Lucas behind me had a very, very good start, and he could attack and overtake Enrique, and then they started to fight with each other, and that made it a little bit easier for me.
Tell me about this longer race, of course, because you had to look after the machinery a bit more. Was that taking towards the end a bigger toll on the brakes and the tyres, or were you able to look after tyres and brakes all the way through the race?
No, actually, let's say that we we used some different tires for this longer race that could take some more. Everybody in the field, because they changed the amount of tire wear in the simulation. So everybody had a little bit less tire wear than usual. So actually, you could push it really hard throughout the whole race. So yeah, different compound.
I just wonder whether this is a format, one long race with a mandatory pit stop, that you might like to see in the real world rather than just sim racing. Do you think there's a place for something like this as an occasional race within the real European Championship?
Yeah, actually, I do like it. I do like the longer race. I do like the idea of the mandatory drive to, or like a mandatory pit stop or whatever, because it gives you a tactical tool. If you are in a close fight with somebody, then you can use this tool to maybe try to make a overtake, like in Formula One, undercut or a overcut, some sort of if you go to if you try to do your drive through in a different lap, and in the meantime you try to go fast. So yeah, actually I think it's quite nice. The only thing is I'm not sure how safe it is to make a drive through in the real pit lane, where there are people and everybody, because obviously then you will have to push very hard in the pit entrance as well, and then just to break down or slow down in time for the pit speed limit, and then push it hard on the pit exit as well. So yeah, it's a little bit risky, I think, but I think it would be a nice thing to do. It would be the best if we would have some sort of a joker lap or another route on the circuit, like they have it in the rallycross, so that you can do it outside on the circuit, not in the pit lane. But yeah,
that's a good idea. Let's see whether that will catch on. Norbert, for now, many congratulations. Great drive, a great race. Well done, and good luck for the Real World Championship. Real racing is not far away, so good luck for the season.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for the organizers. Thank you for ETRA and all the sponsors for supporting the championship as well. And of course, thank you to my team, Race Track Race team, and to our sponsors supporting our team, because yeah, it's very important, and I'm really happy to give them this win. And yeah, I hope we can carry this momentum into the real championship. So yeah, thank you.
Good luck, Norbert. Thank you very much. Well done again on a win at Kyalami. Now we get news that Lucas Hahn has been given a 10-second penalty for crossing the white line at the pit exit. Now, let's have a word, if we can, with Robin Kreitehoff, who was second in the race. Robin, well done. Really tough race. Some big battles, big fights there.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great second. Is a great result, of course. Big fights. I think I tried to stay out of trouble the whole race. Saving the tires, saving the brakes, and staying out of trouble, and it happened very well.
And Robin, you in your race, a lot of the success, I guess, came from a really good qualifying to put you up near the front of the grid.
Yeah. Actually, it was a great lap. It was nearly great. It is very difficult to put in a good lap together, but it really helped me starting from fourth.
Well done. Congratulations. Second place for Robin Kreitehoff. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Marcel Matig also joins us. Now, Marcel wins the sim class. Marcel, congratulations. A good race for you.
Thank you. It was a very tough race for me. The fifth grid position was good for me. I hope I come in the top 10.
It all worked out well. Some good fights, good battles, and a class win. So Marcel, many congratulations. Well done for winning the sim racer class in our grand final. Well done.
Thank you.
So our top 3 drivers, because I think when you apply the penalties, we're going to find Marcel Matig moving up the order to take third place overall. And that brings to a close the grand final of our eSport Challenge. The European Truck Racing Championships Digital Challenge has given us plenty of drama over the course of the season, whether it has been the real world drivers or those huge grids of the sim racing drivers. And fascinating as well to hear from Norbert Kish that he was keeping an eye on what the sim racers were doing, so he knew what the opposition was capable of in the grand final this evening. And Enrique Marcos, as we've been reporting, ending up with a 10-second penalty, so dropping down the order. Keep an eye on the FIA ETRC Championship website, because there'll be the full news and the full result in due course once all those penalties have been applied to confirm who was where. But the race control team still pretty busy, I reckon. And of course, it's not going to be that long before we're able to enjoy truck racing in the real world once more. The European Truck Racing Championship season is due to kick off within the next 2 or 3 months, and it'll weave its way around Europe. There'll be, of course, the Spanish and the British Truck Racing Championships to look forward to as well. So although we hope you've enjoyed what you've been watching in this virtual world of truck racing, there's nothing quite like being trackside, and it won't be long before we can get back there, hopefully, to enjoy the stars of the European truck racing scene doing battle around the great tracks of Europe once more. And of course, the man they're all going to have in their sights is Norbert Kish. He wins then the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge. He wins the grand final as well. Well done to him. On behalf of everybody involved in this grand final, thanks for your company, whether it's been just for this race or across the whole championship. And we hope you've enjoyed the coverage of the ETRC Digital Racing Challenge, and we look forward to your company in the real world as well when that kicks off. But with congratulations to Norbert Kish and Marcel Matig as our 2 class winners from the grand final. For now, it's goodbye from Kyalami.